Welcome back to the MilSpouse Mastermind Show. If you are joining us for the very first time, I am so excited that you are here. Today we are talking about how to create or optimize a morning routine this summer as a military spouse. It is summertime, at least for most of us. Some of you may still be in a place where there is a little bit of school left, but for most of us, the activities that we have throughout the school year have ended. May is a big transitional month. I don't know about for you, but for many of us, our calendars are packed full in May with all of the end of the year stuff. And then we hit June and we're left going, what is going on? Of course, unless we're moving, and then we are probably in the midst of planning and executing and figuring out all of those things. But summer is a time where our schedules, our routines often shift, and it can be very tempting to let our routines and schedules slide because we don't have to wake up as early or we don't have the same requirements on our time. And so that can be really tempting to let things go. But there is a cost to that. So today we are going to be diving into our morning routine and what we can do to live a little more intentionally this summer. So grab that cup of coffee and let's dive into the show. You, my friend, were made for more. More than the managing of schedules, keeping up with kiddos, and holding down the home front. Welcome to the MilSpouse Mastermind Show, the podcast that empowers you to get unstuck and craft a life with more meaning and less overwhelm. I'm your host, Christine, seasoned military spouse, mom of 3, and your guide to designing a life you love and growing a purpose-fueled business as a military spouse. I believe you have something valuable to offer, and when you pursue the things that light your heart on fire, you trade frustration for fulfillment and isolation for a life of impact. It's time to discover who you are meant to be, because together we can change the world. All right, I am excited to get into this topic today, but before we dive in, I want to know, have you left a show review on Apple Podcast? If not, I would ask that you pause this recording right now. Just hop over, scroll down to the bottom of the page, and leave us a quick review. This doesn't have to take more than 10 seconds of your time, but it does make a huge difference in the reach and scope of who we're able to serve and how this podcast gets found in people's podcast feeds. I love getting reviews from you and getting to hear what you love about the show and how we can continue to grow and make it even better. Like this message from Holistic RN Mom, who says, encouragement to be more than a title. I love the message that I am not stuck in one role. I can grow, change, and develop as a person. Each episode has hope, encouragement, motivation, and practical tips for change. Thank you so much, Christine, for helping us see that we are more than our title. Thank you, Holistic RN Mom, for your review. If you have not yet left us a review, I can't even speak this morning, please go do that because that means so much to me and so much to all of the future military spouses that are going to have the chance to hear this podcast because you took that 15 seconds of your time to leave us that review. All right, let's dig into talking about our summer schedules, summer routines, all the things. I had an episode last month, episode 142, where we talked about time management hacks for busy military spouses. And I said one of the keys to my success and what I have done as a military spouse and in starting this podcast and in working from home is having a consistent morning routine, having a consistent wake up schedule, what I'm doing with my time. And I did a morning routine episode all the way back towards the beginning of the podcast. It was episode 22. I will have both of those episodes linked below in the show notes, but I decided it was time for a little refresh because my morning routine always continues to evolve and change as I grow and learn more about what helps me show up as the best version of myself. And so I kind of wanted to just share with you what my routine currently looks like, how I am shifting things for the summer, and why you're going to need a morning routine this summer. Because I know how tempting it is to say, hey, if you have kids, they're home from school for the summer, we don't have to be up on a schedule. Let's just let everybody sleep in and just have a breather from the go of activities, which defines so many of our months during the school year. So one of the reasons why a morning routine is so important is that you need a system that helps you make progress towards your goals. And what I'm going to talk about today is that your morning routine does not have to look the same as mine. In fact, it does not have to look the same every single day of the week. A morning routine is simply a time block, if you will, a chance for you to set up and start your day with intention. But if you do not have intentionality, if you do not have a system, you're going to struggle to make progress on your goals. You're going to struggle to show up as the best version of yourself, and for those around you. Because one of the amazing things that a morning routine can do for you is help you keep those rhythms of self-care in your day. The rhythms of self-care that are going to allow you to show up from a place of rest, from a place of health and wholeness, rather than from a place of exhaustion and burnout. So what does a morning routine do? Now, if you've been doing a morning routine, if you've had a morning routine throughout the school year, you may have observed some of these benefits in your life. But if you do not currently have a set wake-up time, you do not currently have any kind of morning routine set up, I want you to know that number one, a morning routine can help us set our intentions for the day. It is not just coasting into the day, letting the day happen, and then reaching the end of the day and being like, what in the world happened today? It helps us set intention for our day. Who do we want to be today, and how do we want to show up in the world? If we do not set that intention, it is much more difficult to live with intention throughout the day. The second thing that a morning routine does for us is it focuses our mind in the right place. I don't know about you, but I can have a million thoughts that come flooding through my head when I wake up. And then the temptation is to reach over for our phone, pick it up, start scrolling, and all of a sudden I have more inputs into what is going on in the world around me, in other people's lives, and I'm not taking that time to focus my mind and figure out how I want to show up and set that intention. So setting that morning routine, having that time in the morning helps focus our mind in the right place. It also helps us be more productive. On the days when I do not get up, when I do not set my intentions, when I do not look at what I need to accomplish, how I want to show up, and what I have on my plate, then I spend the rest of the day scrambling. So it can help us actually be more productive. And then number 4, as we kind of alluded to a little bit earlier, it is a form of self-care. And then the last thing that I really want to hit on today is that it is a habit that moves us towards who we want to be. It is so vital if we want to grow, if we want to develop as people, if we want to make a difference in the lives of others, if we want to make the most of the life we have, that we develop the habits and routines and systems that help us grow as people, that help us show up as the very best version of ourselves. So it is the habits, it is the little details of our daily life that will ultimately influence and impact who we become and how we show up in the world. So this is why having a morning routine is so important. But then we get to the summer, and it is easy to let that morning routine slide, to stay up a little later at night, and then we want to get that sleep, and so we sleep in a little bit later in the morning, and then all of a sudden our kids are up, and we are immediately stepping into a reactionary posture, which allows us to get through the day, but it doesn't help us be intentional with our day. So if you want to be intentional, if you want to continue to try to show up as the best version of yourself, if you want to pursue a goal, if you want to start that business, then you're going to have to be intentional with your summer. And that goes back to your habits and your routines, and specifically your morning routine. So I thought maybe it would be helpful, because I always find it enlightening when I hear what other people do for their morning routines. And it is funny because it is so different for everyone. And in my own life, in my morning routine, it is something that is continually evolving as I try new things to figure out this works, this doesn't work, this worked for a season. But I think it's sometimes helpful to hear what other people do. I also read a book earlier this year that I think was very informative and impacted how I am currently doing my morning routine. The book is called The Miracle Morning, and if you have not looked it up yet, I would highly recommend you check that out. But he basically takes these 6 core personal development principles and packs them into an hour each morning. And he talks about that if we truly want to grow and develop as people, then we have to have these practices that aid our personal growth and development. And I actually stumbled across him. I had never even heard of this book before, but I just stumbled across his podcast, which is called Achieve Your Goals with Hal Elrod. And I started listening to his podcast on achieving your goals because this is what we talk about a lot. And how much of what he actually talks about goes back to those habits, those rhythms and routines, and specifically his morning routine. So right now, this is what my current morning routine looks like. And I will be honest, as I am recording it, this is probably going to shift a little bit this summer. So I'm going to tell you what I'm doing right now and then the elements that I'm looking at shifting this summer. So right now, I start my morning routine with my prayer time and my gratitude. There is an episode, and I did not write down the episode number before I started recording, but I will go back and add that to the show notes. But I talked about how having a daily gratitude practice really transformed the way that I look at life and really helped bring me out of that negative mindset and shift it into a way of looking at life from a possibilities mindset, and how that was foundational for me to show up as a military spouse, to thrive as a military spouse, and to learn to walk filled, fueled, and full of joy. If you've been a part of this community, you know that is my challenge, that call to action to us every single week on the show. And it's something that I continually work on in my own life, but so much of that goes back to starting my day with prayer and with gratitude. And then it moves into setting my intentions for the day. What do I have on my plate? What is coming up? And how do I want to show up for that? The third piece of my current morning routine is looking at the goals and affirmations that I am currently working on, that I want to remind myself of on a daily basis. And there was a period of time when I did not review my goals on a regular basis, when it was kind of like, I can't imagine looking at that on a daily basis. But I kept reading over and over again about the importance of reviewing your goals. It has to be what you see on a regular basis if you want it to impact the way that you show up, if you want to make meaningful progress towards those goals. And so really at the beginning of 2023, I was like, okay, I'm going to make my list of goals and affirmation statements. And that is something that I am going to try to read as many days of the week as possible. So when I was training for my half marathon, that is what I did. Every morning, I'm looking at this goal of I am committed to running a half marathon because I want to prove to myself that I can do this thing, that I can be committed and follow through and actually achieve a goal that I've had on my heart for a long time. And reminding myself of that every day, on the days when I felt tired, on the days when I did not feel like going out for a run, reminding myself, this is what I am committed to in this season, and this is why. So the more that we review those goals and those affirmations, the more they seep into our subconscious and they begin to change the way that our brain processes information. They begin to change how we show up, how we view ourselves. If you go back and listen to some of the episodes that we've done on mindset and on neuroplasticity and the way that how we think and what we believe shapes how we act and who we become, this is part of that. It is having that daily look at what am I working towards and why. The fourth part of my current morning routine is visualizing who I want to be. I have done an episode before on vision casting and vision boards, and we tend to think of this as the things we want. But when we can transform that idea of who do I want to be, how do I want to show up, what actions and habits are a part of my life, and then visualizing that on a daily basis. This is what I'm working towards. This is how I want to interact with those in my life, and taking that time out to visualize what those goals and those dreams look like for me is a part of this process. And then the fifth piece of this is having some type of mindfulness practice. And I say some type because I continually shift this up in my own life. Sometimes it's just a matter of me focusing on breath work and being quiet. Sometimes it's doing an app such as the Headspace app, which you can get for free as a military family through Blue Star Families. Sometimes it is me just working on managing my mindset and just observing where I'm feeling stuck and what's behind that so that I can reframe my thoughts. Sometimes I am doing some tapping, some emotional freedom technique, but I try to just have a time every single day, or at least as many days of the week as possible, where I'm just focused on my mindset and really being aware of what's going on, what I'm thinking about, so that I can remind myself of what truly matters, and so that I don't get stuck in these negative thought patterns, but I'm able to work through them and move forward. And then the sixth piece of my morning routine that happens on some days, it doesn't happen on other days, but it is doing a workout, doing something to move my body. This morning I was running a little short on time, so I ended up combining and doing a walking meditation. So I was actually running, but I was doing an active meditation on my app while moving my body. So that's why I say sometimes it looks a little different depending on how much time I have, but that's kind of what my current morning routine looks like. And then we are doing breakfast with the family and getting everybody ready to go to school and work and all the other things. But that time apart when I can just focus on my mind, on my heart, on who I want to be and how I want to show up for the day, that helps me for the rest of the day. If I wait until my kids are up, until they're asking me questions, until everything else is going on around me, then I am not able to process all of that. And then I don't end up showing up as the version of myself that I want to be that day. I find myself feeling more short-tempered, getting frustrated when my kids do kid things and all these other things that don't happen when I take that time to invest in myself and my well-being in the morning. So let me just say, well, I did say I was going to share how my morning routine is going to shift this summer. Now, I went for a while last summer because we were in the middle of the PCS and I kind of let my morning routine slide, and I regretted that. I regretted how I was showing up in that season. And when I talk about feeling discouraged with our move, a lot of that went back to not being consistent with my morning routine. So I'm really working this summer to make sure that I am able to maintain a morning routine as much as possible. We might be doing some traveling, we will see, but that always does kind of shift up my morning routine a little bit. But outside of if we end up going to see family, I'm also looking at the summer because I'm going to have my kids home with me and I'm not going to have quiet time during the day to get any projects done. So some of it may shift to say, okay, I need to incorporate some work time before my kids are awake. And so I may have a shorter time to focus on mindfulness, meditation, and my prayer and intention setting for the day so that I can get a little more work in before my kids are up and going, so that I can be more present with my kids when they are awake during the day. So we'll play with that a little bit. That may be getting more workouts in when my kids are awake. That was really hard to do when they were little. When I would try to do a workout video, which inevitably involved a kid climbing on top of me as I'm trying to do push-ups. So it's always shifting to figure out what works for you and for your family in your current season. But what I want to say is, if you do not have a morning routine, or if you are considering letting that routine slide as we go into the summer, then I want to encourage you to don't give up on a morning routine, or to choose to be at least a little intentional with your mornings. Now, I know some of us stay up late. We feel like we are not morning people, and that's okay. But there is some power in giving yourself just a few minutes to set yourself up for a better day. So let's say you chose to wake up an hour earlier every morning. You could make some really meaningful progress towards your big goals and dreams. Just think, having just 5 extra hours a week of focused, intentional time in the mornings could help you achieve some really big results down the road. Or let's say you got up 30 minutes earlier than you are right now. That gives you 5 minutes to set your intentions for the day. 5 minutes for prayer and focusing on what you're grateful for. That gives you 10 minutes of some mindfulness or meditation practice, and 10 minutes to just move your body, or go outside, stand on the ground, and just ground yourself in nature. All of these things don't have to take a ton of time. A lot of times we think it has to be an all or nothing thing, or it has to take a certain amount of time. Those are just a couple of examples. You could even just get up 10 minutes earlier to do 10 minutes of headspace, or to take out a journal and just write for 10 minutes. What I want you to do is to look at your life and your schedule, and before you just let things happen this summer, take a few minutes to say, how could I approach the summer with a little more intentionality in my schedule? How could I incorporate some of these healthy rhythms that are going to help me care for my physical health, my spiritual health, and my mental and emotional health this summer? And yes, I do absolutely want to advocate for getting enough rest. It is important that we take care of our bodies and give it the sleep that it needs, but that may translate to being a little more intentional with our evening routine and not letting ourselves stay up late just because the sun stays up so much later this summer. All right, friends, I cannot wait to hear what your morning routine currently looks like, what you may be shifting for the summer, or if you haven't started one yet, I would love for you to pop into our Facebook community and share your big takeaways from this episode. Let us know what your morning routine is going to look like this summer. If you are not already a part of our group, I would love to have you come join us just by going to millspousemastermind.com/community. We will be in there, and then I will be back here next week for another episode. Until then, may you live filled, fueled, and full of joy. Hey friend, before you go, the MilSpouse Mastermind community is here to help you thrive as a military spouse. Figure out what lights your heart on fire and equip you to create a life of impact. You can have an incredible impact simply by heading over to iTunes to subscribe and leave a review. And if today's episode was meaningful to you, I know it will be for others too. Spread the word by taking a screenshot of this episode and share it to your stories so we can continue to reach more people, change more lives, and shift the way that military spouses look at life. Because we are better together, and together we can change the world. Let's do it.